the feeling and the circumstances may not be the same, right? So you're struggling with the size of your body as opposed to someone struggling with the way their face looks or acne or feeling they're too short or too tall or somebody feeling they're not smart enough.
People wrestling with feelings of either being too much or not enough.
Right.
Yeah. And, not feeling seen because of that or in part because of that, but finding a way to express themselves with an outlet gives them a sense of sight, gives them a sense of purpose, gave me a sense of sight, gave me a sense of purpose. And being able to share that in a way where I am taking back or taking power to the things I was afraid to admit to myself and saying them out loud challenges that. And then I think takes that fear, takes that power away from anybody who says it as a way to weaponize it against me. And I feel like being able to own that is what gives me a sense of, I don't want to say power, but I guess sense of peace and sense of being able to recognize what is my truth. And then through that, hoping people are able to see themselves and own the things that maybe they don't love about themselves.
Hi, welcome to Making Impact. I'm here with Aaron Alexander, a friend, a poet, and an overall beautiful person. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you.
I'm excited to have it with you. Yeah, we're getting into it a little bit before the camera started rolling. And yeah, that was already a great conversation. So I'm excited to continue that.
Thanks. Let's reiterate. Let's go back to some of that because it was just us talking, but I really think it's valuable to have those conversations because it was meaningful to me. And I think it may be meaningful to others. What made you decide to start writing poetry, and then what made you decide to take the leap of faith of sharing that poetry with others?
So I had initially started writing poetry for myself around the time of like 2016 or so. I was going through some major changes in life, kind of hanging around some people I weren't particularly aligned with. And yeah, I felt like I needed to make some alterations. So I started investing in my fitness, started investing in my health, started doing some self-reflection, and that self-reflection turned into writing poetry. And all of that at the time was primarily for myself and just to have an outlet for my own feelings and processes and find a way to encapsulate what it meant to be me to me. And I remember one day I was with a close friend and we were in the car and I was like, hey man, I've been writing this poem. And I shared it with him. And at first he was just kind of silent. He didn't say anything. And I was like, oh my God, is it crap? Did I ruin this friendship? No, but he was like, man, that was really powerful. I think you should share that somewhere. And I just had never really considered that, especially doing it somewhere live in front of other people. And so another one of my friends, coincidentally within, the realm of my life, I knew him to be someone who had a space like that, who had an open mic. He held it at his home.
Okay.
And I went there, I want to say like late 2017, and performed for the first time. And I was so scared, like my legs were shaking, I was sweating, and I was standing in this backyard. And I said the piece. And to my surprise, as I did that, people came up to me after the fact and had stated that they had resonated with the things I was saying. And it hadn't dawned on me that, my words could be something that resonates on an emotional level or a soul level with other people, something that was very specific and vulnerable to me. And I think that is where it sort of changed and evolved my perspective on what it is to write poetry, what it is to share, what it is to be vulnerable. And I think that was something that kind of changed the game for me as far as how I express myself. So yeah, I think that would would be a decent answer.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And you said a lot of things in there that are really meaningful to me. So people came up to you and said it resonated with them.
Yeah.
Do you think, and did that create like a further reinforcement to write more about any specific topic, or what kind of things were you hearing that people were connecting to in regards to your words?
I want to say it resonated on people on a level from my recollection, or people who maybe didn't feel empowered to share their own voice, or people who maybe felt emotionally invisible, or people who didn't really have an outlet to be able to identify whatever these feelings are that they shared with me, even though my words were specific to my own experience. They didn't go through my exact experience, but they found kinship with themselves in the things that I was saying.
Do you think also, because I've always read a lot. I love poetry. I like reading. And sometimes when I read something, I think somebody else is experiencing that very same feeling I had there. And it also makes you feel not like an other. Like it makes you feel like you're part of a larger group. Like, wait a minute, I hear what he's saying. I felt that. It's okay. Like he's up there. Did you ever, I wonder if people have ever now taken the courage that it took you, right? Because you mentioned you stood up there, your legs are shaking, you're sharing, right? And I'm going to presume, but please correct me if I'm wrong, one, you're vulnerable because you're sharing something emotional and meaningful that happened to you. And two, there's a fear of being judged or rejection. Are those two things accurate?
Yeah, no, it's a very scary thing to put yourself out there, and you put yourself out there and be vulnerable, but also give insight into how you perceive yourself, and people judging I guess not your level of authenticity, but judging your perception of yourself, and then having maybe those fears being validated about your own insecurities that you're putting on display for people. And yeah, that's also kind of the fine line with working on the internet, and that's in comments, and that's a whole other topic there. But I think that to get to the root of what you're asking, it is a scary thing. It's a vulnerable thing to talk about these more sacred things for yourself, but it is sort of freeing at the same time.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Let's talk more about that, right? It's freeing. In what ways, right? Like if I think about things I might write, or I love music too, so I listen to certain songs and that I can make a connection. I can hear the lyrics of a song and say, oh, that's how I feel. And I want to keep playing that song, right? And it feels freeing to have the conversation with somebody when they're saying, hey, this happened. And I'm like, hey, they're telling me that happened to them. I can tell them that happened to me too now, right? It feels like that. And I think I want to I want to grow up and be more like you, right? Be capable of actually having that part of the conversation first, because I think it's braver, right? You're going out there now and you're putting your poetry, which is, we talk about it like it's a thing, right? It's poetry, and people think of poetry as words on a piece of paper, but they're your experiences and your feelings on a certain medium that's being shared.
Yeah.
Was it just it happened that time, and now is it scary every time, or has it now gotten less and less scary because of your experiences back and forth?
It's like a two-part question. One, it's still scary if it's still something that you're afraid of. It's still something, if you haven't wholly either admitted it to yourself or accepted it about yourself. But also, it's scary when it's something that you've never fully said, or like the things that you're afraid to talk about in front of people. I think for myself right now, I've been doing it for a number of years now, and some of these pieces that I do are from different periods in my life. Like I like to view poetry when it comes to poetry about your experiences and your inner workings, right? It's like a verbal photograph of like a feeling in time, you know? So I feel as though as we grow older, as our bodies and minds change over the course of years, some of our opinions and feelings about ourselves change. So I'm at this weird place of talking about past experiences or past relationships and knowing those pieces can still resonate with people, but I'm in a different place in my life now. So they don't hit me in the same way, but I'm learning to find ways to rediscover those pieces from my current point of view so they have more resonance within the present day. Like, you know, trying to do a piece from like when I'm 22 at 30, you know, you've performed it X amount of time. So I know how to reactivate the feeling of that memory without letting it consume me. So it's not as scary, but I'm almost allowing those words to reinvigorate, not quite possess, but put that feeling on display because I have access to what that feeling was when it was happening.
Correct. But you're not in the moment that it's happening, so it's not as raw and
Exactly.
painful. But so what you're saying is then you also benefit, like everybody does, from a painful experience or a loss, or that you have time. Time has given you the perspective of healing. It's giving you the perspective of process. And now you have an opportunity to look back at it with a fresh set of eyes and new life's experiences too.
Yes. That said, performing and writing new pieces still gives you that same feeling. So it gives me that same feeling of when I wrote at like when I was 22, 23, and just, okay, now we are exposing another part of ourselves and putting it on display. So those things are still scary, but there is a semblance of safety in performing older pieces. But I think in challenging yourself to continue to advance your self-concept and allow yourself to be seen at where you are in your life, it gives you a sense of strength in that fear, but also knowing that you are able to connect to people. And then it gets into this weird thing of like, okay, how do I differentiate?
Do you actually think you have a certain responsibility now because you have people that are locked in, right? They want to see what your next piece is. They want to connect. They want to share. They're following you and doing this for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that sense of responsibility? And is there a difference between what you're writing for yourself? Do you just write anything that you feel and then certain ones make it to be on display and others stay private for you until, who knows, because they can fall in that same category you remembered when you said, hey, when I was writing when I was 22, all of a sudden you can write 5 things and then 2 of them make it to be on display. And you keep going, and then you can go back in another 5 years and say, now I'm ready for those 3 to come out now that I've had a chance to process. Has that ever happened to you where you're...
Yeah. I wrote a piece last year about a prior relationship, and it was cathartic writing. It's a different thing writing while you're in it, writing when it's freshly over, and then writing from the perspective of years later, talking
Yes.
about that feeling.
Yeah.
So that, in a way, is cathartic, yet you're still accessing those feelings. It can be tough trying to have work that you know that people resonate with, and then try not to hold yourself to the expectation that this is important to people before it's important to yourself or to myself. So I'm trying to...
That's the authenticity. That's the
Exactly.
authenticity in your work that people are connecting with, right?
Yeah, I think I'm at a place of, you know, challenging myself, making sure that even though I want to perform for people, making sure the work is for me first before it's for people, because the more honest I am with myself, the more I'm able to give back in an authentic sense, or the more I'm able to give back in a way that allows me to have not necessarily have people feel it's a thing, but that allows people to see me more clearly in when I see myself more clearly.
Right. Because I think it all goes back to you're writing for you and you happen to share it and believing all that is true. It's you're sharing true, authentic experiences. And if we get to the heart of it, that's the sameness of all of us. That's the humanness of us, because you're putting on display, right? And I consider poetry art. Your art that's going on display, like many artists, is you. It's a piece of you. And it gets put out there, and seeing people resonate with that gives us the sense that we all have an opportunity to actually make those meaningful connections, to be vulnerable. And that's what I was saying to you, why I said I wish I could have the bravery. I'm thinking of this on my own, of what would I share? What am I willing to talk about in a conversation? What am I willing to write in a piece or share if I wrote a book about my own personal experiences? And thinking about how you started doing that so much younger, and that it actually helped you, but also helped others. And I think that's a hard balance to think about what gets shared and what doesn't. But I learned quite a bit from what you said, and I really like it. And it makes so much sense with the you writing something when you're 22 and then looking back on it when it's you at 30 is completely different. Not that the experience changed at all, but maybe your perspective did.
Exactly.
Have you ever written about something that happened when you were 22 and then gained such knowledge or insight in hindsight or in perspective and life experiences that you wrote that same piece, but from your new lens?
Yeah, definitely. I have a piece that I wrote about 3 or 4 years ago about something that happened to me in high school. And writing that piece, I don't think at the time I experienced what had happened, I wasn't ready to. But getting some years removed from it, I can now tell that story in a way that is clear, and the way that is cohesive and from a reflective point of view.
I think that has a lot of meaning. I mean, I think it takes a lot of courage and bravery to produce art for public consumption.
Yeah.
You write for yourself. That's how you started, and it was helpful to you. What is your why as to why you made that transition from writing for yourself to sharing it, and has that evolved through your career?
Yeah. Well, I guess to answer your question, if I could do a piece for you really quickly.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I would love that. Thank you.
Okay. Who was the kid standing behind the window there? Trying to look good but looking ugly with his nappy hair. Trying to feel good but low esteem keeping him sad but fair. Oh yeah, he's big too. Did I not mention that? He wears a hoodie safety blanket because he knows he's fat. And he's aware now. And I think he knows his size, but how he looks don't really show you how he feels inside. He hangs his head low. The kid was full of doubt. He wants to say just how he feels, but he can't let it out. The kid has goals, yeah. Yet he has so much fear, he's just afraid to be himself. He's sliding by for years. He feels so trapped within his life, he can't escape his peers. He's too closed off to share his thoughts, so he just hides his tears. But he wants to change, though. He feels it in his heart. He wants to do so much in life, but don't know where to start. He got it in him to do good and just don't know he's smart. He goes and tries to find himself, and he discovers art. This changes everything. This really changed the game. Now this kid can't look at things within his life the same. He's on a path to heal himself. He's going to kill the shame. He's going to do what brings him peace, not going to feel the blame. He's going to go and shine till the whole world can see. He feels the need to help the people find their inner peace, while also trying to make him laugh and show external glee. Who was this kid, you ask? Who could that kid be? The kid behind the window there. The kid was me.
Wow. That is absolutely beautiful. Actually, it's like brings me to tears, to be honest, because I can think of so many kids sitting in some of my treatment facilities right now that this is the only mode of communication that we've had with them. They write rap lyrics, which is poetry. And I guarantee you, if I shared that poem or read it out loud across the 60,000 children and families that we're blessed to serve, people, there's not a kid that wouldn't say, oh my God, that's me, right? So you're turning around and saying that's me. And whether it's, and that's when we go back to that feeling of the feeling, and the circumstances may not be the same, right? So you're struggling with the size of your body as opposed to someone struggling with the way their face looks, or acne, or feeling they're too short or too tall, or somebody feeling they're not smart enough to share these things.
People wrestling with feelings of either being too much or not enough.
Right.
Yeah. And, not feeling seen because of that, or in part because of that, but finding a way to express themselves with an outlet gives them a sense of sight, gives them a sense of purpose, gave me a sense of sight, gave me a sense of purpose. And being able to share that in a way where I am taking back or taking power to the things I was afraid to admit to myself and saying them out loud challenges that. And then I think takes that fear, takes that power away from anybody who says it as a way to weaponize it against me. And I feel like being able to own that is what gives me a sense of I don't want to say power, but I guess sense of peace and sense of being able to recognize what is my truth, and then through that hoping people are able to see themselves and own the things that maybe they don't love about themselves, as a way to accept whatever their circumstances. And because you can't hate yourself into change, you have to be able to accept and sit with yourself where you are and try to love those pieces of you in a way that it allows you to give yourself grace to be, anything you choose to be.
And when did you write that?
Funny enough, that was the piece I was talking about early on. That was the first piece I ever performed.
It's absolutely beautiful. And you know what I think is really interesting? Sometimes I think we're very hard on ourselves, right? So the very things that you pointed out about yourself that you felt were what you were trying to hide, and I just thought about it when I first saw you and hugged you, is the very thing I loved the most about hugging you, right? I was like, here he is, get a real hug from somebody. It was a positive to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we also do. The things that differentiate us are the things we tend not to like until you get older and have experiences and perceptions. And those are the very things that make us who we are, with all our bumps and bruises and scars and rough spots. Those are the things that a lot of times I think get you to the next level in your relationship, because those are the things people love the most about you. When you have that intimate relationship with a partner and you're vulnerable and you're sharing those things, because now they're seeing all of you, what you thought was ugly, and they love you more because of them, not in spite of them.
Yeah. And it's funny. That's a whole other can of worms in and of itself. But yeah, the things that make us unique, the things that make us ugly, things we try to hide about ourselves, those things can bring us together. But oftentimes those very things that we perceive to be deemed as unlovable are what cause us to push people away.
Yes.
And I think being able to accept those things, own those things, being able to talk about those things in a way that is honest and reflective, I think that is what breeds us to allow the space to be able to connect in a truly vulnerable way.
Yeah, it really does. And what's on your forefront? Do you have any new projects, pieces that you're writing? Are you working on anything? Do you have a vision for, is there anything particularly driving you in your career right now?
Oh man, there's some things, some topics I've been kind of afraid to approach that I am sort of wrestling with. Like, I talked about my, my body a little earlier in that initial piece I shared with you, but I've never talked about my eating disorder in my poetry before. I've never talked about my relationship with my size and my ability to express anger, or my inability to express anger because of my stature and appearance. Also, my relationship with my father and family, just these other things that have been like kind of cooking in my brain that I am entering at this new stage in my life where I'm like, oh, I feel I'm in a place where even though it's scary, I am more ready to approach them in a way that feels whole and authentic.
I think that's beautiful because a lot of people are in the same place, right? Where they're struggling quietly with something that many other people are struggling with, and they feel like they're isolated and alone. Is there advice you feel, and I don't mean it in the sense of telling somebody what to do, but just more sharing your own experience. Is there anything you want to share or that you can say to people watching this podcast who may have gone through some similar experiences? Is there anything around writing, sharing, anything you want to bring that sort of helped you take that step? Like, it sounds like you're evolving. You started with your own self. You started talking about relationships. Now you're really dealing with things a lot of people deal with, relationships with their parents, bodies, your own depression or whatever. Everyone's carrying their own cross to bear. How do you, any kinds of thoughts or feelings about how you've been evolving to the next step in becoming braver? And I say anyone, but I mean me, I'm listening. Tell me, how do you get to that next phase of really feeling comfortable sharing those soft spots?
I think it's really about learning to be able to actually sit with yourself. I feel like we live in a world where our attention and our dopamine receptors are hacked to be able to remain stimulated or engaged all the time. But learning to be able to sit with yourself, your thoughts, allow yourself to feel your feelings in a way that is not about what is I mean, obviously the world influences all of us, but allow yourself to be able to sit in the truth of what the feelings you feel are, to be able to access the authenticity of that experience or the root of what that thing is. Because I feel like with a sense of protective ego attached, you're not able to see whatever that thing is from a place of purity. Like, we humans have a tendency to get defensive, or when we're angry about something, the anger can be a valid feeling, but under that thing underneath anger is often something we're afraid of. And being able to identify whatever that thing is that we're actually afraid of can help find a sense of clarity as to what that feeling of acceptance could be. Are we afraid of loss? Are we afraid of abandonment? And the ways we lash out or try to protect ourselves because of the things that we're not letting ourselves to actually feel in their most pure form.
Thank you. That is beautiful. It's like, let's feel what you need to feel, and be okay feeling uncomfortable, and be okay feeling sad and discomfort. But also, you don't need to hide it, and you don't need to be alone when you're doing it, because there's many other people in the same boat. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's accurate. That's sharing your poetry. Granted, there's a lot of poetry that uses the face of the mask of anger or the face of sadness, but I think allowing yourself to be true to what it is that feeling is gives you the space to be able to share that with others, which allows them to feel seen and the safety to be able to express those feelings to themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for having such a beautiful conversation, for being here with me, for sharing so much of yourself. Thank you for sharing your poem. It was absolutely beautiful. I love it so much. Thank you so much for joining us on Making Impact. If you like what you saw, hit like, hit the notifications, and subscribe. And please share comments. We want to hear what you have to say. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.